Welcome to Fundraising Well's The Successful Board Service Series. In this edition, we'll be discussing how to build a stronger board and executive director partnership. There is a partnership paradox. The best boards are both supportive and challenging. They're asking hard questions and providing resources. They hold the executive director accountable and they provide high support and have the executive director's back. This can sometimes feel contradictory. So how do you pull it off? At Fundraising Well, we believe in some partnership norms. Norm number one is no surprises. What this means is the board chair and ED talk regularly, and no major issues reach the board table without the executive director and board chair having already discussed it and able to share it with one voice, even if there are disagreements. Why does this matter? If the board hears bad news for the first time in the meeting, they're reactive. They might get defensive, angry, or paralyzed. And if the board has context ahead of time, they can be thoughtful and supportive. If the ED feels trusted, the board feels informed, we have no surprises. Some practical implementation of this norm of no surprises, those regular touch points between the executive director and board chair, a weekly or biweekly call where you're scanning for issues, testing ideas, and flagging concerns. You might also see this show up where the executive director sends the board chair brief updates before each board meeting. Here's what's going in front of the board. Here's the context that we need to discuss. And if major issues arise, that ED is calling the board chair immediately, not waiting for the next meeting. Some sample conversations that might happen when you are working towards a no surprise culture. The executive director might call and say, I want to flag something. Our biggest funder might not renew. I've got a plan to diversify, but I wanted your heads up before I present to the board. Thank you for that transparency. Walk me through your plan. What do you need from the board? The result of this conversation is the board meeting is not a shock. It's a collaborative problem-solving engagement. Partnership norm number two is role clarity in meetings. The problem can be board meetings devolve into operational discussions. How do we implement X? What's the exact wording for this invitation? When we get into that way of working, both the ED and staff get frustrated. They feel the board is micromanaging. The board also gets frustrated because they don't want to feel like they're just rubber stamping. So what's the solution here? Before each agenda item, ask, what's our role here? Are we deciding, advising, or being informed? We like to think of this as a simple breakdown. If we are deciding, we're making the decision, and someone else is implementing. If we're advising, we're giving input, but someone else decides. And if we're being informed, we're simply listening and staying aware, and we don't need to vote. Some examples of deciding are approving the annual budget, the ED evaluation results, a strategic planning process, or developing a major policy. Those are all areas where the board would be making a decision. Some examples of advising are program redesign, marketing strategy, or staffing structure. This is where the board might be asked for its input, but the decision will be coming from the executive director or a staff member that they have delegated that responsibility to. And examples of informing quarterly program results, funder relationships, community partnerships, those dashboards. These are all examples of how we are informing the board of directors rather than asking them to advise or make a decision. Helping with real clarity is partnership norm number three, dashboards. The use of dashboards keeps everyone focused and at the right altitude. The problem shows up when the board is either overwhelmed or uninformed. They've either received 100 pages of data or a small two-sentence update. Neither will lead them towards good governance. So the solution, a one-page monthly or quarterly dashboard that shows revenue. Is it on pace? Are there major concerns? It also shows programs. What's the percentage and number of participants, satisfaction, key outcomes. It also highlights the team. Is the staff stable? Are there vacancies? What's our retention like? Where do we need to lean into supporting the ED through this process? Strategic priorities. If you've got a strategic plan, you should always be looking at your strategic plan priorities and goals in your board conversations. What's the progress toward those annual goals or those strategic goals? And then risks. Is anything off track? How do we flag those risks? And do those immediately become discussions? Partnership norm number 4 is the honest feedback loop. We can see this happen when the board doesn't tell the ED that they're concerned, and the executive director assumes everything is fine. And 6 months down the road, the executive director finds out the board has been unhappy. Suddenly, trust erodes. A solution here is regular, safe channels for feedback in both directions. From the board to the executive director, this can look like the annual 360 evaluation, where confidential feedback from staff, board, and self-assessments are prepared and presented to the executive director. It can also be a mid-year check-in with the board chair. It could also be any anonymous board feedback collected via a form or a survey. My suggestion is to have all board members have a free flow relationship with either the ED directly or with the board chair. And if the board chair and ED are meeting regularly, the board chair can always relay any feedback lifted up by their board members. From the ED to the ED's annual reflection to the board on their performance. What's gone well? What's been hard? What do you need from me? What I need more of from you? As well as informal feedback to the board chair on those board dynamics. Implementing these honest feedback loops will help preserve trust and strong governance. Partnership norm number 5, proactive communication between meetings. The problem shows up when the board only talks to each other in those monthly meetings, and if you can, imagine quarterly meetings, and these small problems become big problems. The solution is to build intentional touch points in between those meetings, like that regular board chair and ED weekly call, working group chairs joining the ED for monthly conversations alongside the board chair, board members and the ED meeting for an annual one-on-one, a personal meeting to align on direction of the organization, what the board members' role and service looks like, what might be coming up that they might be interested in, and the whole board in those monthly, quarterly meetings, plus some optional social and informal time. If you're able to have 4 board meetings a year on that quarterly basis, and you're able to make at least 2 of them extend with some kind of social and informal time, you'll be doing a great service to your board members and your organization by providing space for humans to get to know one another and to allow for more proactive communication in between meetings. I've also seen some organizations where the board has taken themselves and their spouses to a cooking class together. What fun that is! Find a solution that works for you. Stick to it, invest in it, and you'll see how successful it is at building a strong board culture and a strong partnership between your board and your executive director. We'll leave you here in this section with how to run effective board meetings. We oftentimes overcomplicate our board agendas, feeling like we have to throw a whole bunch of things in there. We always recommend using consent agendas and dashboards for most of the presenting and recapping of information from meetings past and from committees in the work that's taken place since the last board meeting. And for each board agenda, establishing only 1 or 2 key objectives and being sure to relate any specific agenda items to the larger goals of the organization. What we mean by this is our gala committee should not be bringing questions around table linen colors into the board meeting. The gala committee should be able to handle that. Now, if there is an opportunity to honor someone at the gala, and this individual has far-reaching networks in political spaces and funding spaces, then this might be a great opportunity to bring this as a conversation to the board to think about how do we optimize this opportunity as it relates to our role for ensuring the financial resources of the organization. Let's be strategic here. And identify what 2 to 3 questions must be addressed once an item is placed on the agenda. Keep your meetings interactive. If the board is discussing and giving advice and making decisions, it is interactive. That is a good meeting. If the board is sitting and listening to staff talk and present, that is not a good meeting. Also, set time limits for each agenda item and stick to it. I've seen some organizations where the boards have a different board member serve as the timekeeper at each meeting, so that function rotates. And their one charge is to keep everyone on time. 5 minutes out in this discussion, if we haven't reached an agreement by the end, we will table this for next time or decide if we need to vote to extend it. But we are sticking to time limits. We're not going to feel rushed in other aspects of the agenda. We also always recommend starting your meeting with a mission moment. You could also end with one, but placing it at the beginning of your meeting is a nice way of reminding everyone of the good work the organization does, and more often than not, the true personal connection each board member holds to the work of your organization. We hope that you are partnering well as board directors with your executive director. If you feel that there's any challenges in your relationships, please reach out. You can find us at www.fundraisingwell.com. Thank you, and we hope you keep fundraising well.